Today, we're talking about one of the biggest changes that we've seen in the Deltek Clarity Study for architects and engineers, the rapid rise of artificial intelligence in the A&E industry. I'm Megan Miller, and I'm joined by Bret Tushaus, VP of Product Management at Deltek, so that we can unpack what this means for firms moving forward. Bret, what are you seeing this year?
Yeah, thanks, Megan. I think, as cliche as it may sound, we're really at a tipping point, and AI has gone from, sort of the buzzword to really a practical tool that we're seeing firms put to work. Every hour, every detail, every project matters. So, AI is really showing up as a force multiplier. It's helping teams work faster, smarter, more proactively. So it's not really a futuristic trend anymore. I think it's a current day advantage that all firms should be looking at.
So let's look at some of the numbers that tie into that. So 53% of firms, according to this year's study, are now using AI tools. That's a big jump from 38% just last year.
Yeah, it's a huge jump, and we're seeing that everywhere with AI. And I think that that sort of represents that it's not sort of this curiosity or cautious curiosity anymore. It's more action as it relates to using AI. Firms are realizing, it doesn't have to be mysterious. It doesn't have to be this massive scope. Firms can start small and still have a real impact. So it could be something as simple as automating tedious tasks or uncovering patterns in project data to something that is even more vertically oriented to the architecture engineering world, whether that be generative design and things like that. So again, I think we've really moved from cautious curiosity to action, and I think the metric you mentioned definitely reflects that.
So let's look at one other metric, which I think ties into this as well. And 66% of firms expect that AI is going to enhance their operational efficiency as well. So that's really a strong vote of confidence. And what are you seeing in that, Bret?
Yeah, absolutely a strong vote of confidence. And I think that confidence reflects how AI firms are starting to think differently about productivity to a certain extent. Instead of throwing more people at problems, they're using AI to start to eliminate some of the friction and bottlenecks that they see on certain processes within their businesses, automating what slows them down, surfacing insights that might otherwise go unnoticed, and reducing some of that noise in the day-to-day. So it's not just efficiency. Well, that's a big part of it. It's clarity and control to a certain extent as well.
Yeah, so think about, tell me a little bit about some of the use cases that you are seeing right now, specifically for architecture and engineering companies.
Yeah, it sort of runs a full spectrum. You've got the things that are characterized as maybe low-hanging fruit, whether that be helping draft proposals, marketing content, summarizing meeting notes, things like that. Like I said, more low-hanging fruit, day-to-day stuff. But we're also starting to see growth in things like design simulation, budgeting, and risk modeling. So they're not really moonshot ideas like they were maybe a couple of years ago. They're becoming very practical and, more importantly, repeatable use cases for firms. And I think the best part, they really free up human creativity for the work that really requires it.
Yeah, so if you think about that, especially for these firms, right? The architects and engineers got into this industry to be creative, to be problem solvers, and a lot of times there are things that pull them back from that. Some of these repetitive tasks and manual things that you just have to do to keep the business going, but this can really help get some of that stuff out of the way and really, to your point, free them up to go back to really what they're passionate about and what they love. And I think part of this is, it's really not replacing jobs, which is a key message here. It's really enhancing how people are working and helping them to not only be more efficient, but as you said, free up that time for creativity, for problem solving, for really where their passions are.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And the concept of replacing jobs and things like that, AI is replacing tasks, and I think that's a good thing because it's actually amplifying talent. AI is taking on the repetitive, the routine, the rule-based things, and that gives professionals more room to think, create, and lead, and sort of manage their firms in a much more engaging way. So the firms that get this right are positioning AI, if you will, as a collaborator, not a competitor. And I think that mindset shift is huge. People need to be thinking about it that way. It's like giving every team member a digital assistant who never sleeps and never forgets.
Absolutely. And it's really exciting to see how firms are leaning into AI as a strategic advantage. And as you said, not just a buzzword, but as we talk to clients and others in the industry and hearing the examples of how they're using these tools, how they're using these technologies in ways that are really creative and inventive. And I think, that's really the part that's exciting for me to see in the architecture and engineering space.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly encouraging, in fact, and more firms are really starting to see AI as a business enabler, not just some sort of technology experiment. And I think the best way I see that coming to life is even as recent as 3, 4, 5 months ago, just to show how quickly the stuff is moving. You heard a lot about people saying you need an AI strategy, and I'm starting to hear more. You don't need an AI strategy. You need to embed AI into your business strategy. And I think that's a great way to think about it, and for firms to be thinking about it, using it to win more work, to deliver faster, and to adapt more confidently. Again, it's more about embedding it in your business strategy than thinking about it as this sort of separate or discrete thing. So I think that's really important, that's how firms should start thinking about AI as it relates to their sort of overall business strategy.
That's great, Bret. Thank you so much for sharing your insight. To learn more about how A&E firms are using AI, automation, and analytics to drive their innovation, download the full 46th annual Deltek Clarity A&E industry study today.